move, story time with Dutch Mantell. It's not story time with Dutch Mantell, it's Ask Dutch Anything, for God's sake. Episode number 33. How are you all doing? Dutch Mantell is here with us as well. He's holding a University of Dutch cap right in front of your face for you to look at. If you want a cap signed by the Dutchman himself, you go to Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2Ls at gmail.com. You know the drill. He's got books. He's got diplomas. He signs twice. There's a diploma example for you right now. Sort of very light. Tilt it, Dutch. There you go. That's better. So we can see it there. That'll be signed twice by Dutch and Zeb Coulter, the provost of Dutch University. And I've got books as well, blah, blah, blah. We're going to get to something else that Dutch wants to show you in a second. Oh, he's also got that figure that he's still not sold yet. If you're interested, go to Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2Ls at gmail.com. Make your request.
That's not for sale.
Oh, right. Are you keeping that now?
I would just show it. Well, there's only one. It's it.
Just wiggling it provocatively in front of the paying audience here. And a couple of things before I get to the new thing that you've got to show. Pro Wrestling Tees, go to prowrestlingtees.com for your Dirty Dutch Mantell T-shirts, of course. Franchise University with Shane Douglas is out every single Wednesday on all podcast platforms, as well as Shane Douglas' official YouTube channel. Do subscribe there. Links are in the description, as I always say. And is there anything else? No. So, Dutch, just before I started recording this, you flashed in front of me a original 1980s trading card that you have signed. So show that.
Just a moment. Folks, I use this as an educational experience too. So I did this card. I didn't do it. Somebody else did it. I didn't get a dime off of it. But this card right here, Wrestling All-Stars card, that is signed. And I asked James, do you know what it's worth? And he said, he gave me a figure, 200 or 300, but really it's only worth what you can sell it for. I mean, you determine the worth when you sell it. But I've seen this listed between $99 and $299 and signed, and it's in perfect condition. See, those card collectors, they ask condition of the card and this and that, and they're very particular. But what makes this card, and see, I'm not a collector, so I don't know. But I think what makes this card valuable is they only made 2,000 of them 40 years ago. So out of 2,000 cards distributed to the world, this is one. I used to have more. I don't know what happened to them. But, and I'm debating whether I want to put this card up for sale or not. How would I sell the card?
I don't know. People could just go to Dirty Dutch Mantell with 2Ls at gmail.com and send an offer in, I guess. I mean, there's got to be card collectors watching.
Well, I don't want to get rid of it. So,
well, don't sell it.
I just don't. Then I won't, by God. So I got it, and there's only 1,999 cards in the world out of 8 billion people. There's only 1,900 more cards out there. So, but did you ever see these cards?
I've seen various ones. I mean, some I think like Hogan or Andre go for thousands.
They made more. Yeah, they made more of them than they made of me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think holding me down to 2,000 increases the worth of it, doesn't it?
Well,
what do you think?
I don't know. You could always put it on eBay and just pull the thing more than 24 hours out just to see the interest of it. But there you go. There's a rare card for everybody to see. And guess what? Dutch has just decided it's not for sale, so don't worry about it. Read it and weep, everybody.
Okay. And then it has a little bit of a write-up about me there. So,
blurb.
But yeah, it's a little blurb. But anyway, I just wanted to show what I had just to make the show just a little more interesting.
We are
as if me and James aren't enough, so we just give you a little more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in fact, it's not just us two. It is everybody watching as well who can submit questions for Ask Dutch Anything at questionsfordutch@gmail.com, and that is what every single person here has done. They sent in a question at questionsfordutch@gmail.com. And goodness me, I say this all the time, but goodness me, we get a lot of them in every single week. So here are some of the best we got in this week. And first up is William Brooks. Dear James and Dutch, I was watching an old Mid-South television title match between Dutch and Terry Taylor. During the match, almost 3 minutes in, you shoot Terry off for a hip toss, but he reversed it into an armbar. I thought, wow, what an interesting spot. I'm 29 and I've never seen any Mid-South wrestling until recently. How come you never see logical spots like this anymore? When it happened, it just made sense, but now every time someone shoots someone off, they duck.
That's a spot that's sometimes when you stop your talent and you think, if somebody tried to hip toss me, what would I do? All you got to do is sit down on it and block the arm, and he can't. But you saw me try to hip toss him. I still remember the spot. And I said, I'm going to try to hip toss you, but I said, don't go, and just turn it into an armbar. That was just a call on the spur of the moment, actually. But it worked because everybody could see that I was trying to hip toss him, and he outsmarted me and turned again into a hold to his advantage. Yeah, you're right. You don't see that anymore because I think a lot of some of this so-called, they call it wrestling, but it is a performance art now. But you see all kind of stuff, just guys moving for no apparent reason. I saw a guy that was going to give an elbow in the corner, and he did a forward row and then hopped up and took a step or two and hit him with a backward elbow. What is the forward row supposed to do? But if you ask one of these guys that do it, of course, they won't have an answer. And when you tell them, well, you got to be logical with it, they look at you like you got two heads. Like, what? Because it just gives them a little extra move, I guess. But you're right. What's the gentleman's name that just wrote us?
William Brooks.
William Brooks, you're totally 100% on the money. Sometimes it just looks so choreographed, so manufactured, so rehearsed that it really falls over into the realm of performance art, not a wrestling match, in my opinion.
We've talked about Terry Taylor before, but it always veers off into the Red Rooster and office work and stuff like that. How good was Terry purely as a mechanic in the ring?
Oh, he's good. Very good. Really good. And I'm on tell Terry right now, and I've never told him before, and I don't think anybody else has told him either. He had the sympathy of by and large, the wrestling world as far as the wrestlers are concerned. We kind of felt sorry for him that he is saddled with a gimmick, Red Rooster, that there was no advancement from. And people laughed at him, and he had to. Can you imagine somebody tells you on worldwide TV, we want you to walk out there, and where people are really getting serious heat as being tough ass bastards, but we want you to walk out there and go, so, and yes, it did. I wouldn't say that it killed him, but it damn sure didn't help him at all.
Oh, it killed him.
Actually,
It killed him.
well, no, he could have still come back from it. He could have, but if they'd have wanted him to, but they didn't want him to. See, he was at the mercy of of creative, and I guess Vince liked it. There's that evil man we're talking about again, Vince. He liked it, and if Terry went in there and says, "Hey, I don't want to do this," well, he would just stop booking him. And back in those days, you didn't have those no-cut contracts, and he would just be out of a job. He'd just be out of work. See, if they give you say a contract for 200 grand now. Well, you're going to make that 200 grand if you show up nowhere. They're going to still pay you $200,000. But if they're not going to use you anywhere, that 200,000 is not going to last because they have no idea about you. And the Sheik, there's a couple of guys that had contracts that they forgot about. One was the Iron Sheik.
Yep, we talked about that last week, in fact, I believe.
Yep, and another was Lanny Poffo.
Yes, they didn't forget about him. That was just a plum for Randy, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah. Randy said, "I'll come, but you got to hire my brother." And I think they give him $125,000, and he never left his house.
$150, I believe, for 4 years.
Well, maybe.
And knowing Lanny, he saved every penny of that. I was just going to say, I'd like to ask you about Terry Taylor again, because I've never talked to him. I've heard a lot of stories about him on and off air. Was Terry his own worst enemy? Because I get the feeling he may have had a tiny smidge of an ego about him.
Well, he did. But you got to have an ego to be in the business.
Okay, even beyond accepted levels in wrestling.
Well, he wanted to be, I think he felt he was embarrassed by the Red Rooster gimmick. And he knew he could be better because he had been treated as a serious wrestler in Mid-South with Watts. And he thought that he wanted to be a serious wrestler, but that was the worst thing that you could be in WWE, is to tell Vince you want to be a serious wrestler. Well, Vince didn't call you up there to be a serious wrestler. Called you up there to be the Red Rooster, I guess. So, and again, I'll go back to my part. How would you like to be Terry Taylor and put that rooster outfit on every night and go out there and flap your wings, your arms like this, and go, bark, 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 bark. And everybody is laughing. How can they take you serious? It's a joke. And Vince knew it was a joke, but Vince would do these things just to screw with people. And I don't know why he would want to screw around with Terry, but he did.
There's a poster out there in like one of the old magazines, and it's one of those "Say No to Drugs," but the Red Rooster's in it. It's like, you probably think you're on drugs just looking at the poster with that guy on it.
Yeah.
Like the worst anti-drug person.
You need drugs to actually do it. Just get yourself all drugged up and then go on them. Then at least you're not miserable. Then you imagine making a 300-mile trip knowing you're going to put on a chicken uniform that night.
Well, Hector Guerrero certainly knew that with that gobbledygooker thing. He certainly knew that.
That was different.
That was worse.
That was totally different. But how long did he have it?
Oh, a few months. And he probably had to cart that outfit around with him and everything.
Oh, my God. That would be probably worse than doing it, carting that stuff around. But anyway, Terry was a much better performer, and could he main event? I don't know if he had that much charisma, but he could certainly you could certainly have a great match for Terry.
Right, next one. Mary, hi, I enjoy the podcast very much. I was wondering why some wrestlers are never mentioned. Tim Woods, that we talked about last week, in fact. Blackjack Mulligan, Rufus R. Jones, Paul Jones, Ronnie Garvin, etc. I know we talked about Ronnie Garvin once because the Invisible Man was brought in that story that you said. But Mary's mentioned a few here that I don't think we've talked about. Blackjack, Rufus, and Paul Jones. And do you know what? Do you have any stories on number one Paul Jones? Because I don't think we've ever spoke about him before.
I only met him one time. I never really worked around him because he's mid-Atlantic. And Rufus R. Jones is mostly mid-Atlantic. And who was the other one?
Blackjack Mulligan. You must have some stories on Blackjack.
Blackjack. Well, Blackjack, he was an agent in WWE and WWF. And you'd see Blackjack, and he'd be whatever, and he'd be smoking a cigarette.
Wasn't that Lanza?
That was Lanza. We're talking about the other Blackjack?
Yeah, Mulligan, yeah. The one who always seemed to beat up Ole Anderson.
Yeah. I think he did beat up Ole, I heard. Somebody told me that him and Ole got in a fight, and he punched him a couple times and threw him out of the dressing room. I think it's when Ole had power. See, Ole, we keep coming back to Ole. Ole had the you want to kill him just by looking at him sometimes. And he could say something. He had a smart ass comeback, and he was kind of funny with it. But it's according to if he was saying it about you, then he wouldn't be quite so funny. But yeah, Blackjack, the Mulligan, big guy. Bray Wyatt's what is he to Bray Wyatt? His father, grandfather?
Who's no, mate.
He's Barry's father, right?
No, he's Mike Rotunda's son. So Bray Wyatt is Mike Rotunda's son, IRS.
Okay, but I was saying Blackjack to Bray Wyatt.
Grandfather?
That's his. It got to be. His mother is his daughter. Is Blackjack's daughter. Yes, I don't know. Yes. Quit getting me on this damn. Oh, you confused me.
I've just checked. Blackjack Mulligan is his grandfather. Yeah.
Thank you. See, I had that about 2 minutes ago, and you got me confused.
Yeah, I know, but it's just funny things. But yes, yeah. So why did Blackjack and Ole just hate each other all the time?
Because people hated Ole. It wasn't Blackjack. It was Ole. Ole, you wanted to strangle the son of a bitch sometimes. And the only reason probably that if Ole had been in charge, he would have fired Blackjack that night. But of course, the Crockett's may have talked him out of it. Oh man, we need him. He's over. He's this. He's that. And he was over in Mid-Atlantic. He was a big time name for him. But Ole, it was. If you heard of Ole getting into it with anybody, it was just Ole had to start it, and because he was just that way. Blackjack wasn't that way. He was. And I think I may have met him once. I didn't really, that wasn't my territory, so to speak. But I always heard he was a good guy, unless he was kicking your ass. Like, Ole didn't like him. Ole could write a book. I swear to God, he could write a book like I wrote and just name the people that he couldn't stand. Not didn't like, it was couldn't stand. Ole could put a book.
It's called Inside Out, 2003. He published a book, and it's basically just everyone he hated.
Yeah. Well, you read it?
No. Read a review about it, though. He's rather bitter in it, I believe. I've read a lot of books, but I've not read that one.
Well, yeah, but just reading, say to me, if I picked the book up and I wanted to read who he didn't like, well, I'd probably agree with him. But Ole took it to another level, I think. I mean, he'd hit left I don't like to like almost pure hatred. He gave it a different meaning. But
hey, we've all got to have a hobby, haven't we?
But Ole, if I always got along with him, and he was always saying, "You piece of crap." That's the way he talked to people. But to Ole, it was terms of endearment. I call somebody a piece of shit, a piece of crap, you this, you SOB, you MF or this, that, and the other. He never thought about, well, they may take offense to this. It was just only just the way he talked. So if you knew that about him, you could accept it. And you could tell if he meant it too. So most of the time, he was a big kidder till he wasn't kidding, and then you knew that too. If that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, but Blackjack Mulligan was not playing Ole's game at all in that sense.
No. Well, he didn't like him. Period. Because I think Ole later on was the booker, and the booker does get a lot of heat. And you could tell if the booker don't like you by the finishes he gives you. And of course that could change, but in Ole's case, I think if he gave you a finish that kind of buried you, that's exactly what he thought about you.
We shall move on. Aaron from New Zealand. Hi there, guys. I have a quick question which follows on from the latest Ask Dutch Anything podcast. Dutch said he turned down a title because it would mean being on the lesser show, which meant a lesser payout. Were there any wrestlers Dutch dealt with that chose a certain title over money? Cheers and keep up the fantastic work. So, I think he's what he's saying, wrestlers who are marks for belts over cold hard cash.
Yeah, well, I said that last week, I think. And one guy listened to the show, and he's a writer for some bullshit wrestling thing that got a little play. And he says, Dutch Mantell lied. Now, wait a minute, that's pretty strong. Dutch Mantell just lied. No, I didn't lie. Because I had this belt, Mid-America title, that in the territory, and it got eat up by Jerry Jarrett. Tennessee had a promotional war, and I had the belt, the Mid-America title, with the old promotion. So when we merged with the Jerry Jarrett one, or when I merged, they wanted me to take the Mid-America title, and I took it for a while. But that meant that all the big shows that Lawler went to, and they would always draw because of not only him, but the title meant more than that little piece of crap I had. Say they had two towns, Memphis and Andover, Mississippi. Well, Andover, Mississippi ain't going to draw no $30,000 house. Andover might be good drawing $3,000 house. But you'd make more money by being in Memphis than you would in Andover being the champion. So being the champion is not always as it seems. So when I found out that Mid-America title wasn't making me any money, they wanted to put it back on me, and I says, no, I don't want it. I'm not saying I'm not going to take it, because that's not my call. But I'm saying, please. Well, actually, I was kind of begging. I got on my hands and knees, kind of embarrassing, really. I went, please, Jerry Jarrett, please don't give me that belt no more. If I could just tell you what I feel now. So, and he said, why don't you want it? And I told him, I said, it's the B-string town. It's the B-string belt. And he didn't deny it, and it was. So he didn't put it back on me, and I didn't take it. I've had it before. I didn't want it again.
You've had it 13 times.
Well, that was with Nick. So I was at least me and Savage were in the top towns.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I've got you.
Plus, I got paid better with that belt than over there, even though Nick wasn't a great payoff guy. But then if I took the belt with Jerry Jarrett and went over and made the B-town, yeah, I refused it. I didn't say I refused it all the time. But what I'm saying, folks, if you're going to decipher what I say, at least listen to what I say.
Yes. And
get it out, because I did, what if I looked at you and says, James, you're just a damn liar. And you say, what? What did I lie about? But see, it's because I didn't listen. So this guy who wrote it, that's actually pretty strong on a little wrestling website. Dutch Mantell lied.
Well, I know what it is. It was just
it grabbed my attention.
Yeah, it was just some blog that no one's read from no mark who doesn't matter and didn't listen to the Kliq properly. So there you go. That's the entire thing. And
I want you to know that it hurt my feelings.
Yes.
I have deep feelings from that. And when you call me a liar, kind of hurt my feelings. I got a tear or two out of it, really. I teared up a little bit.
I thought you'd like this. You defeated Randy Savage in Birmingham, Alabama. Oh, no, I'm sorry, you didn't. Chattanooga, Tennessee. Randy Savage won it from Don Kent in Birmingham, Alabama. And you lost it after 56 days. This is your first reign to Don Garfield.
It was going to be, that's Don Fargo.
Oh, is it? Of course.
Yeah, it was Don Fargo, and he had a different name. But I had a run with that belt one time. It was like 10 minutes because I won it on TV. And Savage came on Chattanooga TV, live TV, basically. And he came out and challenged me. And I got back in the ring after I'd already had a match with some guy, Mexican Angel or something. And then Savage challenged me and he beat me. So I had the title then. It may even tell you here. I had it for a total of like 10 or 12 minutes.
Is this with Nick or was this Jerry?
Oh, this was Nick.
I am looking. You had it for 4 days there. You had it for 0 days there, and then you lost it to Savage. Yeah, Nashville.
Yep.
November 11th, 1978. There you go.
See, we need to talk sometimes about the TV setups in Tennessee in the earlier days. They used to have a TV on, I think it was Friday night in Huntsville. Let me see. No, they had a night show in Chattanooga. Okay, you make Memphis TV in the mornings. Then you hop in the car and you drive all the way across the state to do another TV in Chattanooga. That's like 350 miles. You drive to Chattanooga, you do the TV there, then you do the house show that night and hop in your car and drive to Birmingham for a 12 o'clock live show in Alabama. That's all in a period of 18 hours. So you think the guys were tired?
Uh-huh.
My God.
That's why you couldn't defend the belt properly. You probably...
Oh, really tired, I should have said that. I said, I'm tired. I'm not rested.
We're going to move on, and we're going to go for a bit more controversy here. And Dino D has written in, and this is the...
Dino D.
Dino D, I'm interested in your answer on this one. Dutch, I was watching a shoot interview with Rikishi. Rikishi was talking about his time in TNA. He didn't like the way he was treated in TNA. He also said, this is quite astonishing, the only thing that Dutch can draw is a colouring book. I would like to hear Dutch's side of the story on this. Was it with Rikishi?
Hey, Rikishi lied. I can't even color in a coloring book. So, yeah, guys would come to TNA and they'd be mad because they were there. I don't know why. Just because Vince wouldn't use them and WCW wouldn't use them. I don't know if WCW was even running then. So they come to TNA and then act pissed off because that was the only place to work. Hey, I didn't set up the system. And guys that were non-cooperative, I mean, Rikishi, he would sit back and listen to what you got to say. If it don't fit what he thinks he should be doing, well, you're a piece of crap. He didn't like you. And Rikishi never had a liking for me. I had nothing against him. And sometimes you help people who, I mean, if somebody is mad and pissed off before they go out there, hell, I don't even want to talk to them because you want to be here. You obviously you call somebody or somebody got you. I don't even know who booked him, to tell you the truth. But
that'll be a Dixie Carter thing. That'll be a Dixie Carter thing, surely. Former WWE star, bring him in.
Yeah, that probably. So, but you see, Dixie, when she booked guys, she didn't really know the backstory on them or who got along with who. See, there's no unwritten rule that just because you're in charge of somebody, you get along. And I guess me and Rikishi didn't have the right chemistry. He didn't much like the way I did things, and I can't change that.
Well,
so Rikishi, sorry you felt that way, but you did tell the truth. I cannot color even in a coloring book. I can't book in a coloring book.
But we can
Is
also...
that it? So what did he say? What did he say again?
Apparently he can't draw a coloring... What did he say? He can't... No, the only thing that you can draw is a coloring book. So you've got to actually draw the images and then someone else has to color them in, I guess.
Hey, I'm going to take a little bit of talent, I would think.
In fairness, though, I mean, how many territories have you headlined versus Rikishi?
Yeah, several. Well, Rikishi, he had to run in WWE, but he wasn't a headliner. I don't know where he's headlined, to tell you the truth. I mean, like a main eventer, zero.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was Memphis, and then the other one in Tennessee, and then Puerto Rico, Georgia, maybe a little bit, and Florida.
The Fullers. Did you main event for them?
And the Fullers, yeah. So
There you
mostly Southern territories, but still.
go. There you go. Well, there's what, like 5 or 6 to nothing there, so you've got him on that. Gordon. Hi, Dutch. Back in the mid-1990s, WWF, the Kliq were running political roughshod over the promotion and allegedly buried a number of talents for one reason or another. Top of this list includes Shane Dean Douglas. Not only was he given a crappy gimmick, he worked almost exclusively with Razor Ramon, who, Douglas has said on his podcast, that's Franchise University, would do little things to throw him off or make him look bad in matches. It was also a time when Douglas was dealing with a severe back injury on a European tour, and Yokozuna cut a promo on him, telling him to take some pills and get out there. What were your thoughts on the Kliq and their treatment of Douglas specifically?
Well, the Kliq knew they had the power. Vince liked them. So they could do no wrong because Vince was a little more than a 16-year-old kid. They're all like high school kids running around. And Kevin Nash would tell you, yeah, they did what they wanted to do. And Razor would tell you, yeah, we do what we want to do. Nobody, because they were friends with Vince. And Vince, if they did something, it was stupid, but in a juvenile sense, it was funny. They all went back in time to when they were about 16, 17 years old, and things like that are funny, but not funny when your livelihood depends on it. And I'm sure whatever they did to Shane, they would just ribbon him, and whatever Vince paid him, he paid him. But they can't draw much if they ribbon because they didn't take him seriously. And I hate it happened to Shane, but everybody saw what they were doing. I mean, I saw it, and he's not telling a lie. Yeah, they put him through. They put him through some stuff, and there's nothing he can do. He can quit or go somewhere else, and that's why he was there because the other place was full anyway. But anyway, yeah, it was silly stuff and has no place in wrestling. To tell you the truth.
Was there anything not in ring, but was there anything sort of out of the ring where you saw the Kliq or any members of the Kliq doing whatever it is, political machinations against Shane or anybody? Who else did you see that the Kliq treated unfairly, in your opinion?
Well, I'd have to think about it. They didn't. If it was other guys, they had another Kliq there. That was the Undertaker's Kliq. They didn't mess with them. It was just the guys that was not in their Kliq or not in Undertaker's Kliq. All the rest of them were fair game. So what were they doing to Shane?
Just basically making him look.
Shane
bad
was a
in
baby
matches.
face.
No. He was the bad guy. Razor was the good guy in it. But when I talked to Shane about it, he was saying even in the early matches, something to the effect of, with wrestlers always working the right hand side, and then Razor would switch, or he would do a stutter step to sort of throw Shane off and just make it look like that Shane's the clumsy one. Which I thought was really interesting, hearing him say that, how very subtle ways of making someone else look bad, but then there's more overt stuff, and there's various people who acclaim, like Pierre, Carl Willett, Bob Holly said his standing was affected by the Kliq. Your friends, I was going to say Skull and 8-Ball, the Harris brothers, Bam Bam Bigelow. Loads of people have said that in one way or another the Kliq affected them.
Well, what they do is Vince takes their word as an authority. And he could have asked them, what do you think of so-and-so? Well, if they didn't fully endorse them, they didn't make the grade. It didn't take a lot. He's not good. He's a shit. He's just, they could just do well, That's the same as saying you're the shits. You can't draw any money when they go, yeah, that's not a very good endorsement. What if you had a written endorsement and he said, how is this guy? How would he fit into your company? Eh,
Yeah.
wait a minute. What? I've never seen that written down, but I got it. But, and they would work with who they wanted to work with and possibly call their own finishes. And of course, I don't even see that, but sometimes you wouldn't get a guy over like you needed him to be over to draw money because they didn't want to look like, I don't know. It was a messed up deal. So that's why you need a boss who will say, we're going to do it this way. And if you don't like it, well, step aside because I got some more guys that, but see, and Vince, when he left, I mean, when that split came, didn't Hall and Nash take off and go to the other place?
Yeah, they went in
WCW?
'96, but I've just found a list actually. So Adam Pom, he's Australian.
And a bomb.
Adam Bomb has claimed The Rock did, but that's post Kliq. But he said no. This is, Vader has claimed. Bulldog apparently has claimed. Shane Douglas, of course. Mabel. Apparently, Kevin Nash has claimed that he actually tried to save Mabel's job at one point. Mo, Jean-Pierre Lafitte, who's Carla Wett, Jim the Anvil Neidhart. That's an Owen Hart.
So what are these guys claiming that the Kliq undermined them?
In one way or another, or post-Kliq, Shawn Michaels and Triple H, that kind of thing. Right, we're going to move on. Michael Austin, Bartlett, Tennessee. Dutch,
if you don't know by now, wrestling is a cutthroat business. And anything anybody says about anybody else possibly has some truth in it somewhere. So I'm going to leave it like that.
Michael I'm sorry, I'm just messing up the name now. Michael Austin, Bartlett, Tennessee. Dutch, I love the show. I was a CWA, USWA kid from the 80s and 90s. I loved the era and the territory days. You never knew what was going to happen from week to week. You never knew what was going to come through here. I was a big fan of all the people to come through the Memphis territory, such as yourself. Brickhouse Brown, which I know you're a big fan of. Tracy Smothers, Jimmy Hart, Sid, Robert Fuller. I miss those days. I miss the Monday nights at the Mid-South Coliseum. I wish they would have done something with the Coliseum and the history of Memphis. What are some of your favourite memories of the territory? Thank you for your time.
Well, during that period, it was like, I remember now the years, like 81 through 85 was like a boom time, not only for Memphis, but for wrestling in general. Louisiana got red hot. Mid-Atlantic got red hot. So did Florida. They were all hot at the same time. But they were all using different people and different ideas. So there's no common thread of why all of them warmed up about the same time. And I was looking around Memphis, I was there, and you look at the talent, if you just read the talent that was in the territory at the time, oh, it was great talent. You had Lawler and Dundee, and you had me, and you had Midnight Express, and you had Jimmy Cornette and the Rock and Roll Express, and you had Austin Idol, and you have this. All of a sudden, this talent, not by Jerry Jarrett was booking it, not by actually planned, it just came into its own at the right time. And Jerry Jarrett was smart enough and astute enough in the wrestling profession to kind of meld all these personalities together. And will it stay hot forever? No, it doesn't. Like a football team, they can win a Super Bowl next year, be horrible. So what happened? How did it fall apart? Well, a lot of things, but we're talking wrestling here. But that was the reason that the territory was good. So you could almost, the rule of thumb in Memphis, say if Memphis drew $30,000, you could almost, in your head, and we were like a week behind all the other, a week ahead of the other towns. You would know that if you went to Louisville the next week, you're going to draw half of what Memphis drew. So you're looking for a $15,000 house. And Evansville and Nashville would draw half of what Louisville drew. So they got to draw $7,000 or $8,000. Now this is years ago. It's 40 years ago, and that's when the tickets were cheap. But and a lot of times, I think Memphis has had weeks of like $150,000. That was a lot of money back in those days. Today, it would be $500,000 probably. But when you had it, and then you had you could sell your own pictures, you could sell your own gimmicks. So, and the Fabs, not only were they making big money just off the gate, they would go sell photos and stand out at the table. They were selling like $3,000 a week just in gimmicks, just in photos. So that was quite a prosperous time for us all. But to show up in Memphis, one of my favorite times in Memphis, and I've told this story before, was when Andy Kaufman was there. Went out there and it was just sold completely out. And if anybody wants to know how to be a heel, you need to do a case study of Andy Kaufman. He was so overboard and he wasn't big. You just wanted to kill him. He was entertaining, but you wanted to kill him. Jimmy Hart, the same way. Cornette, really the same way. You just wanted to kill him because they had that sharp mouth. Didn't look like they could beat up a glass of water, but yet they're in the ring and drawing big money. Kaufman drew a sellout one night, and I looked in the ring and I saw I've said this before, 160-pound guy with like long johns on and with just like athletic shoes that you just go down to Kmart and buy, the real cheap ones. Was he qualified to be in that ring? Not really.
Well, yeah, he was.
But
he drew the house.
Yeah, but he was. He drew 11,100 tickets. So he was more qualified than the rest of us to be in the main event that night. And he produced.
I want to ask you this. What do you think was the single best year for not only you, but for the wrestling business in general in the territory days, for payoffs, just general fun, quality opponents, options of where you could go? What was the best year in those days?
In Memphis?
It could be anywhere. Maybe even for the wrestling business as a whole. What was the best year?
I'll say for a territory as a whole, and I'll tell you why I'm saying it. I say 19, and now I'm going to say this, and you're going to say, my God, at least get into this century. It was 1982, because they actually sold more tickets. Memphis sold more tickets than Madison Square Garden. Because the Garden only runs once a month or once every 6 weeks. It's easy to understand. But they sold more tickets in Memphis that year than the Garden, Madison Square Garden sold. I mean, the building in Memphis sold more tickets than Madison Square Garden did. Of course, Madison Square Garden tickets are more expensive. Of course, they had higher gates. But just talking about the number of tickets sold, Memphis beat them by like 100,000, I think. I'm not sure about that. But Memphis, we went through that year. You know, when summer gets there, when winter comes, they say, all right, save your money, guys. Because business was always better in the summer, which makes sense. The kids are out of school and they don't have to get up early in the morning, go to school. And so one September, we went through September like it wasn't even there. I mean, we was doing like maybe about 8,000 fans average in Memphis. And it stayed that way all the way through the winter. And sometimes you'd have that occasional 11,000 sellout. Then you drop back down to 8. And see, when you get a sellout, you have the casual fans. They come. Because something has interested them enough that they'll show up. That's when you actually get the sellout. Otherwise, you get to sell out every week. And I said one time, when Memphis got down to just drawing like 5,000, 6,000 fans. I said, hell, they wanted to fire everybody. And that's a joke. But, going from 10,000, 11,000 to 5,000 is a 50% drop. So it did look like, it was just getting away from you. You can't look at a house and say, what are we doing wrong? But Memphis was a great wrestling town. It was a great wrestling town before I got there. And I think it's still a great wrestling town today. It's just, you just got to present it to them in a way that they'll accept. Now they've seen WWF and the E, and they've seen AEW and WCW. So they've seen the best wrestling they can see. So to go in there with a local show, you could still do okay, maybe, and maybe not. But I don't think the people may not buy it, but you don't know till you try. But the only thing why people are not going to try, because it actually takes too much money to start a new promotion up. And you can't really see making that money back in a year. And that's what holds a lot of people from starting up new companies. Plus, their lack of experience almost dooms it from the get-go. Just because you like wrestling and you know how to rent a building and make a ring or rent a ring or get some wrestlers, that's not even half the battle. The half the battle is you got to get your fans to buy the tickets. And after they buy them, you got to get them something to buy next week's tickets or a ticket in 2 weeks or sell some advertising or do something. But it's a whole business actually underneath the business that a lot of people don't know.
We shall move on. Gabby Gilbert.
Did that make sense?
No. I'm kidding. Of course it did. Next question. Gabby Gilbert. Hello, I wanted to ask Dutch if he had any stories of Jimmy Rave. From TNA, Ring King, Ring of Honor, or Random Indies, he held the door open for you. Anything, thank you. So Jimmy Rave stories, if you have any.
Well, Jimmy Rave has passed away now. And what happened to him? Was he paralyzed? Or what happened to him?
I don't even want to say.
He died within I think he passed away in the hospital.
I want to say that he like amputated or something like had some amputation.
That's what it was.
Yes.
Jimmy Rave, actually, very good performer in the ring. Great performer. He was a little lax in his interviews and his presentation, but ring work, he was good. So, and I think he was with us with Ring King. I hadn't talked about my India days too much, but he was with us there. But I like Jimmy Rave. Where did
you meet him first?
TNA, I think. That's where I met him. And I can't even tell you where he was from. See, I just dealt with him after we got in the building. But he was a kind of a quiet kid, laid back, but pretty good in the ring and didn't cause any problems. So, and when I read about him, if I remember this correctly, he did have his leg amputated.
Yes.
Was it his leg?
Yeah. So I'm looking at his Wikipedia, and his fiance at the time was fellow wrestler Gabby Gilbert, who's written in. So hello, Gabby. I didn't realize. He died after a double leg amputation due to an MRSA infection at the age of 39, which is awful.
It was awful.
Yeah. Any further stories or of Jimmy that you can think of?
Well, not really. He just didn't cause a problem. He was a good guy. Now, Gabby, well, she's going to have to write me back. I don't remember Gabby for some reason. Was she around? Did she come around? I mean, you can't ask her now.
No, I'll tell you what, Gabby, write back in and tell us if you've ever met Dutch as well. We'd like to know as well about that. But
she'll write back in and said, "Yeah, that son of a bitch, I couldn't stand that bastard and blah blah blah. He couldn't book a damn. He couldn't do nothing. He couldn't run a 7-Eleven."
Oh, no, you're going
No,
into Rikishi
but
there again.
I thought her name sounded familiar, but hey, if it was during TNA days, I forgot most of that.
There you go, Gabby, right back in and let us know. We're going to move on. Daniel Lemieux, or Lemur, I don't know how to pronounce it, sorry. Hey, Dutch, do you think a guy like
What's
Steve...
his name? What's his name?
What's
his name again?
I'll spell it for you. Lemieux.
Oh, Lemo.
Hi, Dutch, or hey, Dutch.
It's French-Canadian. It's Louisiana. That's why they spell names.
If it's going to be French-Canadian or if it's going to be deep south.
Yes.
Because of the...
No, I think it would be
Creole?
Louisiana.
Is it Creole down?
Creole, yes, it is. Yes, it is.
You must be sort of half impressed with my American knowledge for someone who's only been to New York.
You're learning something.
Yeah.
See, now you know.
So he says, hey, Dutch, do you think a guy like Steve Lombardi belongs in the WWE Hall of Fame? If not, why? I feel like he does because of the years he worked, and he's the most recognizable jobber in the biz.
Does Boston, what was his name? The
Boston Botherer. No, it's Brooklyn Brawler.
Brooklyn Brawler. I said Boston. Does Brooklyn Brawler deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? Not no, but hell. Well, I think he should be. He spent most of his time around that area, put everybody over, everybody knew him. So I see no harm in honoring him by putting him in the Hall of Fame. I think if I would almost watch it just to see him cry. Because, we see if they put me in the Hall of Fame, it don't matter to me one way or the other if they put me in the Hall of Fame. But some guys, it is a major, major dream of theirs to be included in the Hall of Fame. And I think Steve Lombardi is one of them. And I think if they did induct him, I think in giving his induction speech, I think we'd see some tears. Because I think it's because he's a New York guy, grew up around there, and he has some great stories about the old days, and he was there. So, yeah, I think he would actually fit into the Hall of Fame, not for what he's done and achieved in the ring, but just being outside the ring and just being a figurehead, so to speak.
When you
talk about the Brooklyn Brawler, huh?
What did he do in WWE? Because I've interviewed him twice, and I'm still not quite sure what his job title was. In the sense, did he just shepherd people around, or what did he do?
Yeah, well, after his working days were over, he just worked there, and he would run like camera sessions. He would run the. He would organize it. He'd get the camera set up, and then he'd go get the guy, and he'd have all the stuff that they would give him, and have him do this interview, and have him do this, and he wouldn't do it for Raw or SmackDown or any, but he would do it for their. I would say their, they have a syndication, then they have a semi-syndication, because that goes to the smaller towns, the smaller areas, but he would be in charge of that. And sometimes he would be in charge of promo. If they just wanted to see if you could talk, and this was just for internal use.
Yeah, like an audition almost kind of thing.
Yeah, he would go and he would take it and he'd show it to him, but they would always have him something to do. But the deal is he's always been there. He was always there. He was there over 30 years. So, he was kind of stunned when they finished him up, because he didn't expect it. But again, that's the nature of the beast. And sometimes things happen you don't want to happen, but I think he's happy now. But I think he would, and a lot of people still remember him, especially in the New York metro area. because when he had that local TV up there, I think, well, I don't know that many people remember him. They'd probably all be dead, but but yeah, I don't think you'd have a big battle by having him included. In the same way with Harvey Whipplestein. What's his name? Harvey what?
Whippleman. You know, downtown Bruno.
Yeah. Whipplestein or Whippleman. Yeah, and you put him
Jewish
in there
now.
too. He would cry too. He would. I think he would sincerely get tears. Now me, no, I wouldn't get tears. If there's any money that comes with it, yeah, I'd take that. I may cry when I got the money, but as far as crying over an ambition that I had of being in a Hall of Fame, nah, I wouldn't do it.
Right, I've got quite a few questions left. I'm gonna try and pick the best ones. Now,
you say the same thing every week.
I know.
How many more we got? 2?
We
3?
actually had about 6 left. I'm going to try and stick it to 2.
Okay.
Mason Creechman. Now we all know about managers like Heenan, Jimmy Hart, and Heyman. However, there are a few managers that many people probably haven't even heard of. One of these managers is Eddie Creechman. My question is, would you please tell us a little about him, if you ever came across him, and if you felt he was a good manager or not for the wrestlers? Thank you, and keep up the good work.
Eddie Creechman, my only knowledge of him is seeing him on TV, and he was obnoxious, and that's about all I can say about him. He was, I don't even think, I don't want to bust your bubble here, but I don't even think he was that good of a manager, to tell you the truth. But he was irritating. He was that. So, and I couldn't even tell you who he managed. This is the way I figured out that the managers work. They worked in rotation, I think. Now they got Paul Heyman. He handles all the top guys. Yeah, I think he's the only manager there. But I think you'd have Bobby Heenan would have one for a while. Just whoever came in, whenever. And then Jimmy Hart would have them. And then when Cornette would have them. So he would just put the talent. He had enough managers. So he would just put the talent with whoever came in. When Creechman was there, you had Lou Albano. You had him, the Grand Wizard. You had him, Creechman. So he had about 3 that he would just roll over with whatever heels came in. Make sense?
Yeah, where was Eddie Creechman based?
I think it was based in New York. I never heard of him down south.
Let me have a look. Smoking a cigar and wearing a Star of David, Creechman would help. I'm trying to think. He's best known for his time in the Quebec promotion, where he managed the Sheik and Abdullah the Butcher.
Well, he's been in New York, I know, but I never ran across him. He was in Quebec. Well, I know I don't know him.
Yeah, and then he was brought to Detroit to continue managing the Sheik.
He was a northern guy.
Okay, right. So that was a slight bust. So we're going
slight bust.
Yeah,
hell, I didn't even know who he was.
We're going to move on to this one. Marty Burns, Nova Scotia, Canada. In fact, hey, James and Dutch, love the show and the chemistry you two have. Which wrestler has or had the best finisher?
Let me take a little thinking. Well, a lot of them had good finishers. Figure 4. But the most believable finisher that I remember, because it was used on me, and it made an impression on me, was Abdullah the Butcher's elbow drop. At so much weight, about 400 pounds. And when he dropped the elbow on you, yeah, you had more than just that elbow coming down on you. You know, he had a bigger, he had a lot of meat hanging off the side. So when he hit you, this part really hit you over here. It should have hit you about there. But this elbow here would hit you on this side. Oh my God. And it was about at least 250 pounds coming down on you. Now, but just for a second or two, but still, I think that was you didn't ask for believable finishes. You asked about the one that
Mhm.
I saw that was most spectacular, I guess. But the most believable, even to the one taking it, was Abdullah's elbow drop. My God. So if you had to be a pretty big guy to take it because you had to get those arms up. At least protect yourself a little bit.
What was the most over finisher?
Well, there's been a lot of over finishers. And a finisher is one that nobody kicks out of. There's no such thing now. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Because everybody in WWE, everybody's kicking out. Oh my God. And the face always comes up like, oh my God, I can't believe it. That is the most overused expression in WWE is the surprise face when a guy kicks out of your finisher. So
But when it happens every week, I mean, how can you be surprised?
yeah, because this guy kicked out of it last week, and now this guy's kicking out of it. Then you coming up and you're surprised. Well, hell, I don't know. This business has more ifs and buts about it than I've ever seen. So, but again, I've said this 1,000 times. I'll say it 1,001. I'm not, I'm not the judge of it. The fans are. So when they stop buying it, maybe they'll stop doing it. But you're asking a group of people. It's groupthink. You remember groupthink from what was the book?
I don't know.
I'll think of it in a minute.
Oh,
I don't know either.
Well, it's not 1984, is it, or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Groupthink. So you sit back and it's whatever they think, not me, them. And the person that has to make that decision he is deciphering the group. Said, okay, do that. So if you hit an elbow, if Abdullah hit an elbow on you and somebody kicked out, it killed the elbow, really. Now, if only one guy kicked out, might not be too bad. But if nobody kicks out, when he hits you with the elbow, it's done. It's over. And you expect a 1, 2, 3. And when you get away from that formula, that's when you start tinkering with something. Only tinker, if you're a booker, only tinker with something if you know how far to go with it and when to pull it back or when to stop it. Because if you get those people expecting something and they're not given, that will really hurt your production. Let me say that.
Okay, to finish this on, what do you think? And I want to go specifically to the territory days because, you know, wrestling has evolved or however you want to describe it. And back in the day, it could be looked as some moves that would get a pinfall could be looked at as antiquated now, like a suplex or, you know, a stalling suplex from Harley Race, you know, wouldn't get anyone pinned these days, I'm sure. Or, but what were some of the moves that you took where you were supposed to be pinned from, and then you think, what with that? That looks really lame, like a knee drop or something.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think the wrestling business got ahead of itself. They tried more and more and more and more, but sometimes more is not enough. It's too much. So if nobody is there to pull that back in, or if the booker or the whoever's watching the product in the ring, if he's not paying attention, well, he can get away from you quick and before anybody notices it. But an experienced booker would see it and say, we need to pull this back in, guys. See, it's easy to take it back to simple now is easier said than done because they've seen the best now, the very best. But now they're putting in gymnastics and tumbling with it too. which makes absolutely no sense. And that's why, and I'll put it this way, that's why Gunther gets over. You don't see Gunther doing any kind of extra moves. He just beats you up. Now, not everybody can do that, but he has the right size to do it. He looks like a big lumbering guy with power. So he can do that. Now, a little guy like Ricochet can't do it. And that's why what makes him stand out, because he does things that the big guys can't do, but he can't draw you any money. So there's a drawback on everything. And I think Gunther I think he will be the heavyweight champion. I think him and Cody, if Cody gets the title, which I think he will, I think him and Cody could have a hell of a run. Give Roman Reigns a rest, then have him come back in, maybe help Cody out against him. People would buy that like a son of a bitch, because now they can cheer him. Then about 6-8 months down the line, have him turn on Cody. And it just continually flows like this. So if you can keep that running and moving, and the people guessing, you got a good business for a long, long time.
I've got an idea for Ricochet. He should change his finisher to the Hart punch.
Why?
He shouldn't. It just look completely ridiculous. Crush used the Hart punch in the 90s, and I remember looking at it and thinking that's the worst finisher in the entire world. I'm trying to think of some other ones here. I've got a list of Bleacher Report. I've put a list of worst finishers ever. I always hated Papa Shango's shoulder breaker. So I just thought, yeah, you've got to pin your shoulders to the match, but it's like, mat, but it's like, my shoulder hurts. I can't kick out. That was stupid. Coco Butt. The aeroplane spin. Lord. Oh, the spinning toe hold. That was Terry Funk's Forever.
I never got it.
He humps your leg.
Yeah. Back years ago, I said, what? The spinning? Why don't he get it and hold it? I mean, why would you be I don't know. Because you can sometimes think too much for your own good. And to ask that question in the dressing room, you may get slapped. Terry, I don't get the spinning toe hold. What's that? How do you beat the guy if you're spinning? Are you spinning or is he spinning? Why would you spin?
Like a horny dog missing his master's leg. Terry would grind on that thing until you submitted. What the hell's the Playmaker? MVP's Playmaker? I don't remember what that was. The Cobra, Santino and Morelli.
Ox Baker years ago had the Hart punch. And it was believable because he would take the arm and he would pull it over. So you were back like this, and the Hart, and he would drill it. People believed that because he had killed, allegedly, he didn't, but they had a heart attack, one of the Torres brothers. And he came to Atlanta, where I was, and they played that up because that Hart punch could kill you. And when people looked up, I think it was Alberto that he had killed. And we went to Savannah one night. Remember I told you he had Ray Gunkel, and he hit him with the Hart punch, and he fell over dead with the heart attack in the dressing room. Well, I hate a man died, but serendipity. I mean, and that Hart punch was just over more. So, but people believed that. They really did.
I'm going to give you a few more.
Okay, if somebody wants to say, shit, man, that Hart punch that don't hurt nobody. I've never seen anybody stand there and ask to take it. When he pulls that back, and you're whoa. Now you have nothing to stop it, and nobody. But I have seen guys that had the sleeper, and people come up and said, I don't believe that sleeper works. And they had this Irish guy named Timothy Cohagen, and he knew how it worked. And I've seen him put people to sleep just going out of the building. They say, I don't believe that's a bunch of crap. Oh yeah, you can't put me sleep. Oh yeah, you just lay them out and leave them and walk away. Then they get up, nobody's there. He'd put them to sleep and left them. You ever been put in a sleeper?
Oh yeah, many times. I've never gone out, but
Not
I've got to the point where
now.
I've
You
seen
have not
stars
been put in a sleeper many times. Just what you were
many
saying.
times. Yeah, absolutely. I used to do
Okay.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu quite a lot, so and I wasn't very good at it, so I used to get choked out all the time.
This guy showed me this move one time, and it's called a front chancery. You know what it is?
Yeah, it's essentially a guillotine, and I have been
Boom,
put in
you
many
put
of
the
those
neck
as well.
down,
Yeah.
and if you crank back, you could break a neck. So I says, and I always remembered that because I got in a fight with a guy and had to hurt him. I didn't want to kill him, but I would get him off of me real quick if I didn't have my gun.
The guillotine that I hated the most getting put in was the 10-finger guillotine. So essentially, instead of putting your head,
What do you mean the 10 finger?
Well,
What is that?
it was 8 fingers and 2 thumbs if you want to be precise about it. But instead of like a guillotine under and then you'd like choke with the forearm to the side, you'd have the head right in your sternum with your head down and crushed in, and then the chest would be put over the head, and then you'd be choked out with 10 fingers. So the person would put the fingers under your throat and then wrench up like that, and that's horrible. But yeah,
Does it hurt?
Oh yeah, it doesn't choke you out as much. It just cuts off your airways, so you tap pretty quickly there as well. But I mean, with the regular guillotine and most variations of it, it cuts off the arteries both sides of your neck, and you go out that way, which is a lot easier way of going out, quite frankly, than the former. Before we shut down the podcast, I'm going to give you a few more finishes from the Sportster that is declared as rubbish. Hulk Hogan's leg drop. I don't know, I thought it was pretty good.
I liked it.
Ultimate Warrior's splash. Right, they've put the Flying Hammerlock by George the Animal Steel. I love that finisher. So you get in the hammerlock, and then he'd lift you up. It looked amazing. I thought it was a great finisher. The Bear Hug, Hillbilly Jim, that was a bag of shit. I'll give him that. The Battering Ram, the Bushwhackers, that was terrible. The Polish Hammer, the Chicken Wing by the Red Rooster. The Kneeling Chokeslam by the Mountie. I've seen a million Mountie matches. I don't know what that is. The Asiatic Spike by Solo Sikoa and Don Morocco and Fuji and after Japanese wrestlers. This is a terrible one. Sergeant Slaughter, the Atomic Noogie. So you get you in headlock. You get in headlock, and he shoves his knuckle, and you go, ugh, like that in your forehead. You know, like you were 5, and somehow that won matches. The Boomerang Clothesline by Outback Jack, he just clotheslined you twice. The Flying Forearms, Tito Santana, which I quite like. The Audit by IRS. And what was it?
That?
I'm just trying.
I don't know what it was.
No, I'm just trying to find out what it was. I thought it was just a clothesline. No, hang on. It was just IRS hoisting a guy on his shoulders like an aeroplane spin, then dropping them down. It was no different than a regular potty slam, but sold like a powerful move. So there you go. And the worst in this list is Kerry Von Erich's Discus Punch, which I quite like.
I don't remember it.
We just did a punch, but he did a little spin first.
I thought he had a figure 4.
Yeah, he did that as well. But in WWF, he in the Texas Tornado days, he did a punch.
Didn't he use that against Flair on the big stadium show when he won it?
Yeah.
Figure 4, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Had a big house that night.
Oh, yeah.
Big one.
I told you I watched the Iron Claw, didn't I?
How was that?
It was good. It was not great. Some people were trying to say it should have been nominated for Academy Awards. And it's like, no, it shouldn't. No, apart from the Ric Flair guy who was terrible. I keep saying this, and I've said this to a couple of people. I was arguing with my friend who went to he knows nothing about wrestling, and I was arguing with him over what they should have done in the film. They didn't focus anywhere near enough on the failing fortunes of the Dallas territory and how it was partially on Kevin's shoulders and more of the awful stuff that they did, to try and get fans back, but they just drove more away. And he was like, yeah, but it's, my friend was like, no, it shouldn't be about that. And I was like, it totally should have been. That was the most, wrestling fan or not, that's the most interesting story about how they killed their own territory, essentially, through one, bad luck, and two, more just horrible decisions after another. Like putting Mike back into the ring after he was partially,
they were
brain dead.
They were drug addicts, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Sometimes they would book them on a card and half of them wouldn't show up. That's the people who owned the company. They were too messed up on drugs, and they wouldn't even go to the town. So you do that a couple of times, and the Von Erichs aren't there. They're not coming back because you lied to them. Can't lie to fans.
Yeah.
You got to give them what you promise them.
Yeah, they didn't mention Chris Von Erich. They didn't mention, who's the other one? Gino
Chris Adams?
Hernandez. They didn't mention Fritz Von Erich pretending to have a heart attack. They didn't really... the MJF was playing Lance Von Erich, and they didn't even mention him, really. He was there for like 10 seconds. There were so many things that they could have wedged in, and I know it's like partially a love story as well, but there were things that were done very well. I also did think... I know it sounds weird for a wrestling film, but I thought there was too much wrestling in it. Whereas I thought it was really interesting when what's he called? Not Zach. Who stars in it? I can't remember his name. The actor.
Can't remember.
No, it's going to bug me now. Anyway, I thought one of the best bits is where he's trying to cut a promo in front of the camera. Zac Efron, and then he messes it up. And then he tries again, and he messes it up. And then he tries again and messes it up. And then later on, when it comes to a live setting, he freezes on the microphone. This is Kevin Von Erich, Zac Efron. Mm-hmm. And the guy playing David Von Erich then takes the microphone from him and then starts doing the interview for him and then whips the crowd into a frenzy. And I thought that was a really good bit of the film. Just, he could never get that sort of confidence in him. And that's why he was... And partially why he was overlooked to be the NWA champion and stuff like that. Or, at least face Flair or whoever it was as well. But anyway, enough about my review. I'm going to shut the podcast down because we're both...
From 8 to an half, what'd you give it? A C?
B-, I'd say.
Okay.
I'd give it 3 stars out of 5.
Okay.
If only they filmed it in the Tokyo Dome, I would have given it 5 stars.
See, I'd give it 6 if it'd been Tokyo Dome. I'd name be Dutch Meltzer. That's what it would have been.
Right, okay, we're going to shut down this podcast. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We've done all the plugs at the beginning, but as we say every time, questions for dutch@gmail.com. If you want to submit a question for a future episode, and as I always say, so many people do, and we'll be back on Friday with Story Touch with Dutch Man. No, what the hell am I saying? Story Time with Dutch Mantell. Until then, thank you very much for watching. Dutch, we the people.
We the people.